Listen to me carefully, because what I am about to say may explain the pain you have carried for years. The reason you keep attracting people who take from you, betray you, misunderstand you, and walk away when you need them most is not because you are unworthy. It is because the wrong people were never built to recognize the treasure God placed inside you. And tonight, I need you to hear this with every broken piece of your heart. The waiting is not punishment. The silence is not rejection. The delay is not abandonment. God has been separating you from what would have destroyed your future, and the right person is coming at last. You thought the story ended when they left. You thought the unanswered messages, the cold silence, the false accusations, and the lonely nights were proof that you were destined to remain unseen. But what if those painful endings were not the burial of your hope? What if they were the closing of doors that could never lead to the life God prepared for you? The enemy wanted you to interpret every loss as evidence against your worth. God was using every loss as protection for your purpose. I am speaking to the person who loved deeply and was repaid with betrayal. To the one who defended others while no one defended you. To the one who sat awake at 3 in the morning, replaying conversations, wondering what you did wrong, wondering why your loyalty was treated like weakness. You have cried prayers that no one heard. You have smiled in public while your heart was collapsing in private. You have carried the weight of disappointment so long that it began to feel normal. But hear me, God did not create you for a lifetime of emotional starvation. There is a dangerous lie that wounded people begin to believe. It whispers, maybe this is all I deserve. That lie grows in the shadows of rejection. It grows after promises are broken and trust is shattered. It grows when people blame you for the very wounds they inflicted. But the voice of God speaks differently. God does not measure your value by who abandoned you. God does not consult your betrayers before deciding your future. The opinion of those who walked away cannot cancel the destiny written over your life. Do you know why the wrong relationships felt so exhausting? Because you were trying to keep alive what God had already marked as temporary. You were pouring oil into lamps that were never meant to light your future. Every time you begged for clarity from someone committed to confusion, your spirit became more weary. Every time you chased reassurance from someone who enjoyed your uncertainty, your heart became more bruised. God saw the exhaustion you could not explain to anyone. God saw how much of yourself you were losing just to maintain a connection that produced anxiety instead of peace. The right person will not require you to abandon your dignity in order to keep their attention. The right person will not make you compete for basic respect. The right person will not punish you with silence every time you express your feelings. The right person will not call your sensitivity a burden when it is actually one of the ways God made you capable of deep love. Stop confusing intensity with destiny. Some connections burn hot because they are consuming you, not because they are sent by God. I know you are tired of hearing, be patient. Patience sounds cruel when your heart has waited through birthdays, holidays, and countless nights of loneliness. But biblical patience is not passive suffering. It is active trust. It is standing in the middle of uncertainty and declaring, God sees what I cannot see. It is refusing to settle for a counterfeit simply because the authentic promise has not yet arrived. The enemy's strategy is urgency. God's strategy is preparation. Think about the nights when you almost lowered your standards just to avoid being alone. Think about the moments when you considered returning to people who had already proven they could wound you. Loneliness can make familiar pain look safer than unknown hope. But God interrupted those decisions. Some opportunities disappeared because they were traps disguised as answers. Some people grew distant because God was removing them before their influence became more destructive. You called it another disappointment? Heaven called it rescue. The right person is not merely someone who makes your heart race. Many people can create excitement. Very few can create peace. The person God is preparing for you will not intensify your confusion. They will bring clarity. You will not spend every day analyzing mixed signals, wondering where you stand, or fearing that one mistake will make them disappear. Their presence will not feel like walking on broken glass. It will feel like coming home after a long war. And let me tell you something that may challenge your assumptions. Before God brings the right person, God often heals the version of you that believed love had to be earned through suffering. You learned to overgive because you feared abandonment. You learned to apologize for needs that were completely reasonable. You learned to stay too long in places that were draining your spirit because you thought endurance was the same as loyalty. God is dismantling those patterns. The next relationship cannot be built on the wounds of the previous ones. There are people listening to these words who have been called difficult, dramatic, too emotional, too intense, too much. But often those labels were given by people who benefited from your silence. When you finally spoke up about what hurt you, they acted as if your pain was the problem. Do not let those labels become your identity. God does not shame you for having a heart that longs for honesty, consistency, and genuine affection. I can feel the resistance in some hearts right now. You want to believe, but disappointment has made belief feel dangerous. Every previous hope that collapsed left another scar. You are afraid that if you open your heart again, you will be hurt again. Listen carefully. Guarding your heart is wisdom. Burying your heart is surrender to fear. God is not asking you to become naive. God is asking you to remain open to the future He is writing. The right person is coming at last, but they are not coming to complete you as if you are half a person. God is completing the healing that allows two whole people to walk together without consuming each other. Desperation creates dependency. Healing creates partnership. The relationship God ordains will not be built on one person rescuing the other from emptiness. It will be built on two people who have learned to draw their deepest security from God. Remember the season when everyone seemed to be moving forward except you? Engagement announcements, wedding photos, happy family portraits filled your screen while you wondered whether God had forgotten your address. Comparison became a silent thief, stealing gratitude and magnifying loneliness. But you were comparing your hidden preparation to other people's visible milestones. God was doing underground work in you that could not yet be photographed. A tree that is about to carry significant fruit must first develop deep roots. The deeper the roots, the stronger the storms it can survive. Your season of isolation has been root work. God has been teaching you discernment, boundaries, self-respect, and dependence on Him rather than on human approval. These lessons are not punishment. They are the foundation that will keep your future relationship from collapsing under pressures that destroyed previous ones. Let me speak directly to the wound of false accusation. Some of you lost relationships not because you were unlovable, but because lies were spoken about you. Your character was questioned. Your intentions were twisted. people believed the version of the story that made you the villain. You wanted to defend yourself, to explain every detail, to clear your name. But God did not allow every battle to be fought with words. Sometimes God protects your future by teaching you that vindication does not always come through human understanding. The truth has a way of surviving. Even when your voice is ignored, the person God sends will not need a campaign of persuasion to recognize your character. They will observe your consistency, your integrity, your kindness when no one is watching. They will not build their opinion of you from gossip. They will have the wisdom to discern truth from noise. Imagine the relief of being known accurately instead of constantly misunderstood. You have spent too much time trying to convince emotionally unavailable people to choose you. Let that sink in. You were exhausting yourself pursuing a decision that should have been freely given. Love that must be coerced is not covenant, it is captivity. God never intended for you to beg for the affection that He designed to flow willingly. I know there were moments when you blamed yourself for the ending. You replayed every conversation, every disagreement, every moment you showed vulnerability. You wondered whether being less honest, less expressive, less caring would have made them stay. But if authenticity causes someone to leave, their departure is not proof that authenticity was wrong. The right person will not require a performance version of you. The enemy wants you to become cynical because cynicism feels like protection. If you expect nothing, you cannot be disappointed. But cynicism also closes the door to the very blessing you have been praying for. God is not calling you to blind optimism. He is calling you to courageous hope. Hope is not denial of past pain. Hope is the decision that past pain will not have the final word. There is a reason your spirit has felt restless lately. Something is shifting. The relationships that once satisfied you no longer do. The conversations that used to hold your attention now feel empty. The tolerance you had for inconsistency is disappearing. This is not you becoming cold. It is you becoming discerning. God is raising your standards to match the level of the promise. The right person will recognize the battles you survived. They will see the strength beneath your gentleness and the tenderness beneath your strength. They will not be intimidated by your growth or threatened by your calling. Instead of trying to shrink you, they will honor the work God has done in your life. And hear this clearly. The arrival of the right person will not erase every challenge. Relationships still require communication, humility, forgiveness, and intentional effort. But there is a profound difference between facing challenges with someone who is committed to the relationship and facing constant instability with someone who keeps one foot out the door. The former produces growth, the latter produces chronic anxiety. You have mistaken anxiety for love because anxiety was familiar. The waiting for replies, the fear of abandonment, the constant need for reassurance created an emotional intensity that felt significant. But peace is not boring. Peace is what your nervous system has been longing for after years of emotional turbulence. When the right person arrives, your heart may initially feel surprised by the absence of chaos. Do not mistake that peace for a lack of passion. It is the evidence that God is no longer asking you to survive love. I want you to remember every time God protected you from what you desperately wanted. The job that fell through, the friendship that faded, the relationship that ended despite your efforts to save it. At the time, each loss felt devastating. Later, you saw dangers, incompatibilities, or consequences that were hidden from you? Why do you trust God with those past rescues but struggle to trust Him with this present waiting? The right person is not delayed because God enjoys watching you suffer. They are delayed because timing matters. Two good people can still damage each other if they meet before they are ready. God is working on both sides of the story. While you are learning to receive healthy love, the other person is learning to give it. While you are healing from betrayal, they are being prepared to steward your heart with honor. Some of you are holding on to ghosts. You have not spoken to them in months or years, yet emotionally you are still waiting for an apology, a confession, a return. Your future cannot fully enter while your heart keeps reserving a seat for someone God has already removed from the story. Release does not mean the pain was insignificant. It means you trust God more than you trust the possibility of a different ending with the wrong person. Tonight, I challenge you to stop romanticizing the relationship that broke you. Stop editing the memories to include only the beautiful moments while ignoring the manipulation, the neglect, the inconsistency, and the tears. Nostalgia is a poor architect for the future. God is not calling you back to the place where your spirit was shrinking. Lift your eyes beyond the wreckage of what ended. The God who sustained you through abandonment is the same God who is arranging encounters, aligning paths, and preparing conversations you cannot yet imagine. One ordinary day, what feels impossible now will begin to unfold with a simplicity that astonishes you. You will not need to force every step. What God ordains carries a different weight, a different rhythm, a different peace. When the right person enters your life, you will notice what is absent as much as what is present. The constant guessing will be absent. The fear of speaking honestly will be absent. The need to decode mixed messages will be absent. The exhaustion of carrying the relationship alone will be absent. In their place will be consistency, respect, transparent and adequate confidence that you are both moving in the same direction. Do not despise the season you are in right now. Solitude has taught you things companionship could not. You have learned how to sit with your own thoughts, how to seek God before seeking human validation, how to recognize the difference between genuine connection and emotional dependency. These lessons are becoming part of the gift you will bring into your future relationship. I need to speak to the person who feels they have missed their chance. You see your age, your past mistakes, your failed relationships, and you conclude that the opportunity for real love has passed. That conclusion is not faith. It is fear wearing the mask of realism. God is not limited by your timeline, your history, or the opinions of people who think they know your future. The same God who brought unexpected restoration in other areas of your life can bring unexpected companionship. Your scars do not disqualify you. In fact, the right person will not be frightened by them. They will understand that scars are evidence of survival. They will not demand that you pretend the wounds never existed. They will have the patience to build trust gradually, understanding that trust broken deeply is restored intentionally. There will come a moment when you realize you are no longer begging to be chosen. You will notice that your prayers have changed. Instead of pleading, "Please make them love me," you will pray, "God, align me with what honors you and preserves my peace." That shift is the sound of healing. It is the moment your identity stops depending on another person's decision. The enemy trembles when a wounded person begins to heal, because healed people are harder to manipulate. When you know your worth in God, flattery loses its power. When you have learned to enjoy God's presence, loneliness loses its ability to drive you into unhealthy connections. When you have established boundaries, access to your heart is no longer granted to anyone who shows temporary interest. I believe some of you are closer than you think, not because of a date on a calendar or a dramatic prediction, but because of the transformation already happening within you. You are becoming the kind of person who can recognize healthy love when it appears. In the past, you might have overlooked it because it did not resemble the chaos you were accustomed to. Now your spirit is learning a new language, the language of peace, consistency, and mutual honor. Do not rush this final stretch of preparation. A marathon runner who sprints the last mile recklessly may collapse before the finish. Continue building the life God has given you. Pursue your purpose. Strengthen your character. Nurture your friendships. Care for your body and your mind. The right relationship should add to a life already rooted in God, not become the sole source of your identity. I want you to picture the version of yourself that existed before repeated disappointment convinced you to become smaller. The person who laughed freely, dreamed boldly, trusted openly, and believed that love could be safe. God has been guarding that person beneath the layers of hurt. The healing process is not creating a new identity. It is recovering the one that pain tried to bury. One day you will look back at this season and realize that the greatest miracle was not merely that the right person arrived. The greatest miracle was that God refused to let the wrong people keep you. You will see the closed doors differently. You will understand the unanswered prayers differently. You will recognize that divine protection often feels like painful disappointment while it is happening. So stop measuring your future by your past. The people who left were chapters, not the entire book. The betrayal was an event, not your identity. The loneliness was a season, not your permanent address. God is still writing, still arranging, still preparing, still restoring. Tonight, when the memories return and the old fears whisper that nothing will ever change, answer them with this truth. God has not brought me through betrayal, isolation, misunderstanding, and heartbreak merely to leave me in the ruins. God has preserved me for something better than what I lost. The right person is not a fantasy. They are part of a future that God is preparing with wisdom greater than my understanding. Hold your heart with dignity. Guard your peace without hardening your spirit. Release the people who chose to walk away. Refuse to chase what God has not assigned to you. Stand still long enough to recognize the difference between desperation and divine alignment. And when the right person finally appears, you will not need to abandon yourself to keep them. You will not need to silence your needs, shrink your dreams, or carry the relationship alone. You will meet them as someone who has survived the fire and emerged with deeper wisdom, stronger boundaries, and a heart anchored in God. The nights of wondering whether you are enough are coming to an end. The season of chasing clarity from confused people is closing. The chapter of begging for crumbs of affection is finished. God is leading you into a relationship where love is not a battlefield you must survive, but a sacred partnership you can grow within. I declare over your weary heart, what betrayed you is not what defines you. What abandoned you is not what awaits you. The God who counted every tear, heard every midnight prayer, and carried you through every lonely season has not forgotten his promise. The right person is coming at last, and when they arrive, you will recognize not merely the excitement of new love, but the unmistakable peace of God's perfect timing. You thought the story ended the day they walked away. You believed that the silence after the goodbye was God's final answer. Every unanswered message felt like another nail driven into your confidence. Every promise they broke echoed in your mind until you started questioning your own value. You replayed conversations over and over, searching for one sentence you could have changed, one decision you could have made differently, one moment that might have saved everything. But listen carefully, because this is where so many chosen ones become trapped. You have been trying to solve a mystery that God never intended you to solve. Some people did not leave because you failed. They left because they were never assigned to remain. There are departures that feel like destruction in the moment, but years later, you realize they were divine protection wearing the disguise of heartbreak. What if the very relationship you begged God to restore was the one quietly draining your peace, delaying your purpose, and weakening your spirit? What if every closed door that shattered your expectations was actually preventing a far greater disaster that your eyes could not yet see? God sees beyond emotions. God sees beyond appearances. God sees beyond temporary happiness. While you were praying for someone to stay, God was protecting your future from someone who would have eventually wounded you even more deeply. I know what it feels like when everyone tells you to move on, as though healing is a switch you can simply turn on. They did not see the nights you cried in silence because you did not want anyone to know how broken you really were. They did not hear the prayers whispered into your pillow when your heart was too exhausted to form complete sentences. They did not witness the moments when you stared at the ceiling, asking God why loyalty seemed to attract betrayal instead of blessing. You carried pain that nobody applauded. You fought battles nobody recognized. You smiled through conversations while your heart felt like it was collapsing beneath the weight of disappointment. The people around you only saw your face, but God saw your soul. God counted every tear that nobody noticed. God heard every prayer that never left your lips. And even when you thought heaven had become silent, God was still working behind the scenes. Silence has never meant absence. Delay has never meant denial. Sometimes God's greatest work happens where human eyes cannot see it. Roots grow underground long before fruit appears above the surface. Your healing has been growing in places no one could recognize, including you. The enemy wanted one thing more than anything else. He wanted your pain to become your identity. He wanted betrayal to convince you that you were unlovable. He wanted rejection to convince you that you would always be abandoned. He wanted disappointment to convince you that every future relationship would end exactly like the last one. That is how fear gains power. It takes one painful experience and tries to write your entire future with it. But God never writes your destiny with the ink of your past wounds. Your future is not chained to the people who misunderstood you. It is not limited by those who underestimated you. It is not controlled by those who spoke lies about your character. The opinions of broken people cannot rewrite what God has already declared over your life. They may have rejected your presence, but they could never remove your purpose. They may have abandoned your friendship, but they could never cancel God's assignment over your destiny. You are still chosen. You are still valuable. You are still deeply loved by the one whose opinion matters above every other voice. Think about how many times you tried to force peace where only confusion existed. You kept hoping that if you loved harder, sacrificed more, remained patient longer, or tolerated one more disappointment, things would finally change. But confusion is often the evidence that something is operating outside God's design. God is not the author of endless emotional chaos. The wrong people train you to live with uncertainty. They make you question your worth every day. They leave you wondering where you stand. One moment they pull you close. The next moment they push you away. They create emotional storms that leave your spirit exhausted. And because the cycle repeats so many times, you begin calling anxiety love. You begin calling instability passion. You begin calling emotional survival commitment. But hear me clearly today. Love that comes from God does not constantly destroy your peace. It strengthens it. It does not leave you emotionally starving while demanding more from you every day. The right person will never require you to lose yourself in order to keep them. God's plan has never included your identity being sacrificed on the altar of someone else's inconsistency. That is why this season feels different. You have noticed it, even if you could not explain it. Things that once satisfied you no longer do. Conversations that once captured your attention now leave your spirit empty. The people you once chased no longer hold the same power over your emotions. Why? Because God is changing your appetite. Before God changes your surroundings, God often changes your desires. You are beginning to crave peace more than excitement. You are beginning to value honesty more than charm. You are beginning to recognize consistency as something beautiful instead of something ordinary. This is not you becoming cold. This is you becoming spiritually mature. God is teaching your heart to stop falling for appearances and start recognizing character. The blessing that is coming into your life cannot be sustained by the version of you that accepted emotional crumbs simply because you feared loneliness. God is preparing you to receive something greater, and preparation always requires transformation before manifestation. So stop asking why they did not stay. Start asking what God was protecting you from. Stop wondering why they failed to appreciate your loyalty. Start thanking God that your future is no longer tied to people who could not recognize your worth. Every painful goodbye has been making room for a divinely appointed hello. Every broken promise has been clearing the path for someone whose words will carry integrity instead of manipulation. Every lonely night has been quietly strengthening your dependence on God so that when the right person finally arrives, they will become a blessing in your life, not an idol that replaces your trust in God. That is why I can speak with confidence to every chosen one listening today. Your waiting has not been wasted. Your tears have not been forgotten. Your heartbreak has not been meaningless. God has been separating you from what could never carry your destiny, so that at the appointed time, the right person will enter your life with peace instead of confusion, with honor instead of deception, with consistency instead of instability. And when that moment comes, you will realize that every painful delay was preparing you for a relationship that reflects God's wisdom rather than your past wounds. There is something God must heal before the right person can safely enter your life. And many chosen ones fight this part of the journey because it feels invisible. You prayed for companionship, but God began rebuilding your identity. You asked for someone to love you, but God first confronted the places where you had stopped loving the person staring back at you in the mirror. That process is uncomfortable because healing exposes what pain has hidden. You may have convinced yourself that you were over the betrayal, yet one small reminder still shook your heart. You may have said you had forgiven them, yet every new relationship was forced to pay for wounds they never caused. That is what unresolved pain does. It quietly follows you into every new beginning, turning trust into suspicion, affection into fear, and hope into hesitation. God knows that if He simply answered your prayer without restoring your heart, yesterday's scars would poison tomorrow's blessing. The greatest gift God can give you is not merely the arrival of the right person. It is becoming the kind of person who can receive healthy love without constantly expecting it to disappear. That transformation cannot be rushed. It is forged through private battles where no audience applauds, where only God sees every tear, every surrendered fear, and every decision to trust Him one more day. Think about the person you were before disappointment convinced you that love was dangerous. You laughed without calculating the risk. You trusted without expecting betrayal. You dreamed without assuming failure. But after enough heartbreak, you started living like someone waiting for disaster. You became emotionally prepared for abandonment before anyone even had the chance to stay. You began interpreting delayed replies as rejection. You analyzed every change in tone, every pause in conversation, every moment of silence, because pain had trained your mind to expect loss before it expected faithfulness. That is not how God designed your heart to function. God did not create you to spend every day defending yourself against possibilities that may never happen. Fear is exhausting because it demands constant vigilance, yet it never produces real peace. It promises protection, but instead, it steals joy from moments that should have been beautiful. The enemy celebrates whenever your past controls your future because he knows a fearful heart struggles to recognize God's blessings even when they arrive. But today, God is breaking that cycle. You are not destined to remain imprisoned by experiences that no longer define you. Your history may explain your fears, but it does not have the authority to determine your future. Some of you have mistaken emotional chemistry for divine confirmation, and that confusion has cost you years of unnecessary pain. Just because someone made your heart race does not mean they were sent by God. Sometimes your heart races because your spirit senses instability, not destiny. Sometimes the excitement you called love was actually uncertainty disguised as passion. You kept chasing people who kept you guessing because inconsistency became familiar. You confused emotional highs and lows with something meaningful simply because calmness felt unfamiliar. But hear this carefully. God's guidance does not thrive in confusion. God does not require you to lose your peace in order to discover your purpose. The right person will not leave you endlessly decoding hidden messages or questioning your value after every conversation. Their words will carry honesty. Their actions will match their promises. Their character will speak louder than temporary emotions. That does not mean everything will always be easy, because every meaningful relationship requires patience, humility, and growth. But there is an enormous difference between growing together through genuine challenges and constantly surviving unnecessary emotional chaos. One strengthens your soul. The other slowly drains it until you no longer recognize yourself. Have you ever noticed that God often removes people before revealing why they had to leave? At first, you only see the empty space they left behind. You mourn what was lost. You question the silence. You wonder whether another opportunity will ever come. Then months later, or sometimes years later, truth begins to emerge. You discover patterns you ignored because your emotions were louder than your discernment. You realize how often you apologized for things that were never your fault. You remember how frequently your kindness was taken for granted and your loyalty was treated like something ordinary. Suddenly you see what God saw all along. What looked like rejection was actually rescue. What felt like abandonment was divine intervention. The relationship you desperately tried to preserve would have eventually demanded more of your peace, your dignity, your confidence, and your purpose than you could ever afford to lose. God refused to let your future be chained to someone who only appreciated your presence when it benefited them. That is why some prayers seemed unanswered. They were answered with protection instead of permission. You asked God to open a door, but God loved you enough to keep it permanently closed because He could already see what was waiting on the other side. Now lift your eyes beyond the pain that has tried to define this season. Do not measure God's faithfulness by how long you have waited. Measure it by how many times He carried you through moments that should have broken you completely. You are still standing. You are still believing. You are still seeking God despite everything that has happened. That alone is evidence that God's hand has never left your life. The same God who preserved your heart through betrayal is preparing it for restoration. The same God who shielded you from relationships that would have destroyed your peace is aligning circumstances you cannot yet see. Even now, while you wonder how everything will come together, God is arranging details beyond your imagination. Conversations are being prepared. Hearts are being shaped. Character is being refined. Timing is being perfected. Nothing in God's plan is random. Every delay has purpose. Every season has meaning. Every closed chapter is making room for a new beginning that will not be built on manipulation, confusion, or fear, but on truth, honor, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing God has finally brought the right person into your life at exactly the right time. Do not let this moment pass as just another inspiring message. Let it become a turning point in your life. Close the door to every lie that has whispered you are forgotten. Close the door to every memory that keeps telling you your future will look exactly like your past. The people who abandoned you were never the authors of your destiny. The voices that misunderstood you were never the judges of your worth. The tears you cried in secret were never invisible to God. Every lonely night, every broken promise, every painful goodbye, every season of waiting has been seen, counted, and woven into a greater purpose than you can imagine. God has not been watching your suffering from a distance. God has been walking with you through every valley, strengthening you when you felt too weak to continue, protecting you when you did not even realize danger was surrounding you, and preparing you for a future that could only be entrusted to a heart refined through perseverance. Stop looking behind you for people who have already chosen another path. Stop reopening doors that God has firmly closed. Stop asking why someone refused to value what God Himself called precious. Your assignment is not to convince the wrong people to stay. Your assignment is to remain faithful while God completes what only He can do. The right person will never require you to chase them through confusion. The right person will not demand that you sacrifice your peace to earn their attention. The right person will recognize your integrity without needing constant proof. They will honor your heart instead of testing how much pain it can survive. And when that day arrives, you will realize that God was never making you wait because He had forgotten you. He was making certain that your future would not be built on temporary emotions, but on lasting character, mutual honor, genuine trust, and His perfect wisdom. So stand with confidence, chosen one. Your heart is not too broken for God to restore. Your future is not too delayed for God to fulfill. Your story is not over because someone walked away. The final chapter has not been written by betrayal, rejection, or loneliness. It will be written by the faithful hand of God. Keep your heart surrendered. Keep your spirit expectant. Keep your eyes fixed on God instead of your fears. The season of questioning is giving way to the season of understanding. The season of weeping is making room for the season of peace. The season of waiting is preparing to meet the season of fulfillment. And when the right person finally walks into your life, you will not celebrate merely because someone chose you. You will celebrate because you will finally see what God was protecting you from, what God was preparing you for, and why every painful delay was worth enduring. You will stand in quiet amazement and say with complete certainty, God's timing was never late. God's wisdom was always perfect. God's plan was always greater than my pain. And in that moment, every wound that once made you question your future will become living proof that those who trust in God are never abandoned, never forgotten, and never left without hope, because God always completes what He faithfully begins. Listen to me carefully. What you are praying for, what you are yearning for in the quiet places of your soul, what you are waiting on with trembling hands and silent tears, God is already working on it. You may not see it, you may not feel it, you may even think heaven has gone quiet, but in the unseen, in the silence, in the spiritual realm where human eyes cannot see, God is moving. Every delay has divine intention. Every pause has a purpose. Every closed door is not rejection, but redirection. God is working on what you are waiting for. You see, people often think that when nothing is happening, God is absent. But God's greatest works often begin in silence. When your life looks still, God is actually building the foundation for your next miracle. When everything seems motionless, that's when God is organizing, orchestrating, and aligning every detail to fit His perfect plan. The waiting is not wasted, it is preparation. The delay is not denial, it is divine timing. And the silence is not abandonment, it is construction time for your breakthrough. Many people lose faith in the waiting. They think if God hasn't answered yet, He won't. But faith that only works when you see results is not faith, it's sight. Faith is when you trust God even when there is no visible evidence. Faith is when you stand still in the storm and declare, I know God is working even if I don't understand how. Faith is when you refuse to let delay destroy your confidence in divine timing. When God is silent, He is not sleeping. When God delays, He is not denying. When God hides, He is not absent. He is protecting something sacred in you. Every great destiny begins in the soil of patience. Before the tree bears fruit, it must first grow roots. Before the promise manifests, your faith must mature. God is not interested in giving you something too soon. A premature blessing can become a burden. So when He tells you to wait, He is not punishing you. He is preparing you. God is working on your request, but He is also working on you. Because sometimes you are not ready for what you are praying for. Sometimes God must shape your character before He releases your promise. When you ask God for strength, He doesn't hand you strength. He sends you struggle. Because strength grows in resistance. When you ask God for patience, He doesn't sprinkle patience into your spirit. He places you in seasons that require endurance. When you ask for wisdom, He doesn't drop wisdom from the sky. He allows you to face decisions that stretch your understanding. So while you think God is not answering, He's actually training you for the answer. The blessing is being prepared, but so are you. Do not be deceived by time. God's timing is not your timing. You may think He's late, but He's right on schedule. The problem with the human impatience is that we think waiting is wasting, but in the kingdom of God, waiting is working. In your waiting, your spirit grows. In your waiting, your faith deepens. In your waiting, your roots reach down to places that storms cannot destroy. The waiting season is when God removes what is weak and strengthens what is true. And when the time comes, you will look back and realize, had you received it earlier, you would not have been ready. Some of you are crying because you think your prayer fell on deaf ears. You have fasted, prayed, and believed, but the door hasn't opened. And now your heart whispers, maybe God forgot me. No, He hasn't. He cannot forget what He created. He cannot ignore what He loves. You are not abandoned, you are being arranged. Your life is not falling apart, it's falling into divine order. The silence of God is not the absence of His hand. It is the hidden movement of His plan. There is a reason God hides His process. If you saw everything He was doing, you would interfere. If you knew how He was preparing it, you would try to control it. So He works behind the curtain in the quiet corners of time, arranging details that are too complex for human understanding. God is working through people you haven't met yet. He is opening doors you can't see yet. He is aligning opportunities you cannot imagine yet. You may be waiting, but heaven is not idle. Heaven is active. The seeds of your future are germinating underground. You cannot see the process, but you must trust it. The soil looks silent, but something sacred is sprouting beneath the surface. God does His best work in hidden places, in the dark, in the quiet, in the unseen. Do not despise the season where nothing seems to move, because that is where faith is forged. That is where your trust in God becomes unshakable. That is where you learn to depend not on what you see, but on what you believe. Sometimes God will delay your request because He is protecting you from premature exposure. Some blessings require maturity to handle. You cannot receive the crown before you can carry the weight of responsibility that comes with it. So when you are waiting, you are not being denied, you are being developed. The waiting is shaping you into the person who can hold the blessing without being broken by it. The truth is, while you are waiting for God to move, God is waiting for you to grow. He's waiting for your mindset to shift. He's waiting for your spirit to surrender. He's waiting for your faith to become unmovable. When He sees that your heart is aligned with His will, then suddenly doors open, paths clear, and everything that was confusing begins to make sense. The waiting ends when the lesson is learned. You see, God never forgets a promise. Time does not erase His word. He does not promise and fail to perform. But He also will not deliver a blessing that your current version cannot handle. If He gave it to you too early, it would crush you. That is why He refined you in waiting, because the promise is not just for your comfort, it's for your calling. It must not only bless you, it must transform you. When God is working, it often feels like nothing is happening. But the same is true of the seed buried in the ground. It looks lifeless, but it's growing. You can't see the process because it's hidden beneath the surface. So instead of panicking in the dark, start praising in the dark. Because the darkness is not your defeat, it's your development. The soil of waiting is where miracles are planted. Do not curse your waiting season. It is holy. Do not rush it. It is sacred. God is still working when life seems still. His silence is not His absence. His delays are not His denials. His pauses are not punishments. They are positioning. God is positioning you in alignment with His plan. He's aligning your heart with your destiny. You may not like the waiting, but when the promise comes, you will thank Him for every moment He held you back. When you are waiting, you may feel forgotten, but you are being remembered in a higher realm. God has your name written in His plan. He has your situation written in His book of purpose. Every tear you cry in faith is recorded. Every moment you choose to trust instead of fear is noticed. Heaven does not ignore faith. Heaven responds to faith, but sometimes heaven's response is not speed, it is strength. God may not give you what you asked for immediately, but He will give you the power to stand until it comes. Waiting is not punishment, it's purification. God purifies your motives in waiting. He removes your dependency on people. He detaches your heart from what is temporary. He teaches you to rely completely on Him. Because when your blessing comes, you must know that it came from God, not man. That's why He takes His time. That's why He closes every other door until only His remains. That's why He allows people to walk away, so when the blessing arrives, you will have no confusion about its source. Some of you are frustrated because your plans failed, but failure is sometimes divine interruption. When God shuts down your plan, it is because He's building something better. You wanted the small version, He has the bigger one. You wanted the immediate, He's preparing the eternal. You wanted comfort, He's preparing calling. What you lost was not rejection, it was redirection. The delay is divine navigation, is God steering you away from danger and toward destiny. Even in your waiting, you are not alone. God is with you in the silence. He is whispering strength into your spirit, courage into your mind, and faith into your heart. You are growing even when you don't realize it. Your patience is becoming your power. Your stillness is becoming your strength. You are being molded into someone who will not break when the blessing arrives. God does not only give you what you pray for, He makes you into who you must become to carry it. Every test, every delay, every disappointment is divine construction. God is constructing your destiny in the dark. He is shaping the unseen architecture of your future. You may not understand why certain things had to end, why people left, or why doors closed, but one day you will. And when that day comes, you will see that everything you thought was a setback was actually set up. Everything that hurt you was shaping you. Everything that was delayed was being developed. There are moments in life when the silence of God becomes so heavy that it almost feels unbearable. You pray and hear no answer. You knock and the door remains closed. You cry and the heavens seem still. But hear me, silence does not mean abandonment. Silence means something sacred is being written in the unseen. When God is quiet, He is not ignoring you. He is shaping the environment for your breakthrough. You may not hear His voice, but you can trust His plan. You may not feel His hand, but His presence surrounds you in ways your heart cannot yet comprehend. The waiting season is sacred because it reveals what your faith is built on. Anyone can believe when the blessings flow freely, but can you believe when the ground beneath you shakes? Can you still trust God when He withholds the answer? That is where real faith lives. That is where your trust matures from emotion to conviction. When you can look at your delay and still say, God, I know you are working. You have entered into a higher dimension of a faith, one that cannot be shaken by time, disappointment, or silence. When God hides His hand, He wants you to trust His heart. And when He hides His timing, He wants you to surrender your control. We often pray for blessings, but we rarely pray for patience. We want the mountain to move, but we don't want the waiting that strengthens our legs for the climb. God loves you too much to give you something that would destroy you. So while you are asking for the blessing, God is asking for your surrender. Because only when your heart is truly surrendered can He release the abundance He has prepared for you. You see, waiting is not passive. Waiting is active faith. It's the declaration. Even though I see nothing, I believe everything. It's the posture of expectation that says, I don't need to see movement to believe that God is working. The most powerful kind of waiting is not filled with worry, but with worship. When you praise God in the middle of your uncertainty, heaven responds. When you thank Him before the answer comes, you activate divine favor. Because gratitude during delay is the highest form of faith. Many times, God delays what you desire because He is removing what could destroy it. You cannot see it, but there are people, circumstances, and spiritual barriers that must be cleared before your blessing arrives. God is a master of timing, and He will never deliver your promise into a polluted environment. He will purify your surroundings, filter your relationships, and cleanse your spirit before He manifests what you've been praying for. You might lose some people, you might see some doors close, but that is not loss. It is divine subtraction to make room for divine addition. Some of you are waiting for opportunities that seem to have passed you by. You see others succeeding, and you wonder why you are still standing in the same place. But understand this, when God delays your opportunity, it's because He's reserving something better. You're not behind. You're being held in divine reserve. What God has for you cannot be taken by another, because destiny has your name engraved on it. What is yours will arrive when the conditions are perfect, not when you're ready, but when the entire creation is ready to receive it. Waiting exposes the depth of your trust. It reveals whether you depend on results or on relationship. The person who truly knows God does not panic when nothing seems to move, because they understand that God's movements are often invisible until the appointed time. You cannot measure divine progress by human standards. God can take one moment and change an entire lifetime. He can take one encounter, one opportunity, one shift, and suddenly everything aligns. So do not let your impatience rob you of what divine timing is preparing. There are seasons when God will allow you to feel forgotten, not because you are forgotten, but because He wants to deepen your dependence. He will remove human support so you learn to lean only on Him. He will close familiar paths so you find a higher way. He will strip away what you think you need so that you can discover that He alone is enough. The waiting season is where idols fall. It's where you discover that peace does not come from progress, but from presence, God's presence. When you trust that God is working, even in stillness, you begin to see delays differently. They no longer look like obstacles, they become indicators of divine activity. The longer it takes, the more elaborate the preparation. A small dream may take days, but a great destiny takes years. You cannot rush greatness. You cannot rush divine architecture. When God built, He built to last. He built beyond generations. So when He is taking His time, it means He is building something eternal through you. God's process often feels slow because He is working through layers we cannot see. He is aligning hearts, preparing minds, and synchronizing moments across time. What you call delay is actually divine synchronization. Every piece must fit perfectly before the masterpiece is revealed. So if you are still waiting, it means something magnificent is being arranged on your behalf. You are not forgotten. You are part of a divine sequence unfolding in perfection. Let me tell you something powerful. Every waiting season has a hidden reward. The person who waits with the faith receives not only the blessing, but also the wisdom to sustain it. Waiting matures your spirit. It teaches you to value what you receive. When the answer comes, you will cherish it because you know what it cost in faith, patience, and tears. You will handle the blessing with humility because you remember the pain of the process. You will guard it with reverence because you understand it came through divine mercy. There is something sacred about trusting God in the dark. When everything around you is uncertain, and yet you say, God, I still trust you, the universe shifts. The energy of faith draws divine favor. The unseen responds to the unshaken heart. God moves through belief that refuses to die. Your faith becomes the bridge between your waiting and your miracle. Even if it's just a whisper of hope, hold on to it. That small spark of faith is enough to ignite a transformation you cannot yet imagine. You see, God does not need your help. He needs your trust. Stop trying to figure everything out. Stop trying to force doors open. Stop trying to control what only God can command. The reason some people are exhausted is because they are trying to do divine work with the human hands. Let go of the obsession with the outcomes and focus on obedience. Your job is to trust. God's job is to act. When you do your part, He will do His, and His part is always greater. When you wait with peace, you declare that you believe in the wisdom of a divine timing. You are telling the universe, I know my time will come because my life is under God's control. That calm, unwavering faith is not weakness, it is power. Because peace in waiting is the proof of maturity. It shows that your trust has graduated beyond emotion. You no longer panic when life pauses because you understand that God is still operating even in stillness. Sometimes God makes you wait because He wants to show you that He can bless you without your effort. He wants you to see that His power does not depend on your performance. The moment you surrender the outcome, He steps in. As long as you hold the steering wheel, He stands back. But when you release it and say, God, have your way, that's when miracles begin to unfold. Because faith is not control, it's surrender. And surrender is the language heaven understands. When you finally receive what you've been waiting for, it will make sense why God took so long. You look back and see that if He had answered earlier, the foundation would not have been ready. The people you needed to meet were not yet in place. The lessons you needed to learn had not yet been learned. Every delay was divine timing, shaping a perfect outcome. The waiting was not empty, it was pregnant with purpose. When you walk through the valley of waiting, your mind will be tested, your heart will be stretched, and your patience will be purified. You will question the purpose of your delay and the silence of heaven, but remember, this God is not punishing you, He is perfecting you. Waiting is not about standing still, it's about growing deeper. It's about learning to breathe faith when everything around you screams uncertainty. Waiting is where your inner strength is formed, where your roots grow strong enough to carry the weight of the blessing that's coming. You see, God does not give ordinary blessings to those who carry extraordinary callings without first refining their spirit. The deeper your calling, the longer your preparation. The higher your destiny, the greater the discipline required. Some people are rushing to doors that God has not unlocked yet, trying to force entry through human effort, but God will not allow you to enter a place your spirit cannot sustain. That is why He keeps you waiting, not because He's cruel, but because He's careful. God is careful with His chosen ones. He would rather delay your success than let success destroy you. Sometimes the greatest act of love from God is not what He gives, but what He withholds. What He withholds is often His protection in disguise. If you only knew what dangers He prevented, what disasters He delayed, what betrayals He blocked, you would thank Him for every unanswered prayer. You would praise Him for every closed door, for every person who walked away, for every plan that failed. Because sometimes what doesn't happen is the greatest miracle of all. Waiting forces you to confront what you truly believe about God. It reveals whether your faith is dependent on evidence or anchored in conviction. When everything around you contradicts your prayer and yet you still say, God, I trust you, that is when your faith becomes unbreakable. True faith is not proven by what you receive, it is proven by what you endure while you receive nothing. God uses waiting to separate the superficial believer from the surrendered believer, the one who seeks results from the one who seeks relationship. When you are waiting, it may feel like your life has been placed on hold, but in reality, you are in the most important chapter of your story, the chapter of becoming strong, becoming wise, becoming spiritually grounded. God is more interested in who you are becoming than in what you are receiving. Because when your inner life matures, every outer blessing will naturally align. God is shaping your identity so that when the blessing comes, it will not change you, you will change it. There is a mysterious beauty in the way God works. He doesn't show you every detail because the unknown keeps you dependent. If He knew how everything would unfold, you would no longer need faith. So He conceals what your mind cannot yet handle and reveals what your heart is ready to receive. That is why the waiting season feels like walking in fog. You can only see the next few steps. But that is enough, because faith was never meant to see the entire path. Faith was meant to trust the one who designed it. Do not let impatience convince you that God has forgotten. Impatience is the thief of destiny. It rushes what was meant to ripen, and anything that grows too fast will not last. God takes time because He builds to last. The blessing that comes too early will break you, but the one that comes on time will establish you. So, when it seems like nothing is happening, remind yourself something divine is developing, something sacred is maturing, and something powerful is on its way. The waiting season is where warriors are made. It's where you learn to fight, not with a fist, but with faith. It's where you learn that peace is not the absence of waiting, it is the ability to trust while you wait. God wants you to have a peace that is not tied to progress. He wants you to rest in the knowledge that He is working even when you see no signs of it. The world teaches you to panic when things stall, but God teaches you to praise in the pause. Because the pause is not a problem, it's a preparation. There will come a day when everything you waited for will arrive all at once. The doors will open, the opportunities will flow, and the pieces will fit. You will be overwhelmed by the speed of divine acceleration. But when that day comes, you will realize that the waiting season was not a waste. It was the reason you could handle the blessing. The waiting season built your endurance, purified your motives, and deepened your trust. Without that process, the blessing would have crushed you. Waiting teaches you the rhythm of heaven. The rhythm of heaven is not hurry, it's harmony. God does not rush because He knows everything happens in perfect alignment. You may want to sprint ahead, but God moves at the pace of purpose. Every step, every moment, every delay is part of a rhythm orchestrated by divine wisdom. If you could hear the melody of your life from heaven's perspective, you would see that nothing is offbeat. Every note has meaning. You must understand that God's timing is not slow, it's strategic. Every second is synchronized with the divine precision. You may think you're late, but in truth, you are right on time according to the eternal clock of purpose. God will never let you miss what belongs to you. If it's truly yours, it will wait for you. If it passes, it was never meant to stay. Stop grieving what God has removed. Start preparing for what He's about to reveal. Even in your pain, God is present. Even in your confusion, He is consistent. He is working through details you cannot yet interpret. The silence of today is the preparation for the sound of tomorrow. When the appointed time comes, what was quiet will suddenly shout. What was hidden will suddenly shine. What was delayed will suddenly deliver. Because when God decided the moment has come, no power on earth can stop what He has planned for you. Sometimes God delays your promise because He is preparing others who will be part of it. He may be molding someone who will walk into your life at the exact moment you need them. He may be orchestrating a chain of events in another city, another heart, another circumstance, all converging toward your destiny. So while you wait, understand this: you are not waiting alone. The entire universe is aligning for your appointed time. The beauty of trusting God is that you no longer need to understand everything, you just need to remain faithful. Understanding can fail, but faith never fails. Faith says, I don't see it, but I believe it. I don't feel it, but I know it's real. That kind of faith moves the unseen. It opens doors that no key can unlock. It turns impossibility into manifestation. When your heart beats with unwavering trust, heaven responds with unstoppable favor. Do not let delay make you doubt. Delay is not defeat. Delay is the birthplace of destiny. Some of the most powerful moments in your life will come after the longest seasons of waiting, because waiting deepens appreciation. It transforms entitlement into gratitude. When you finally receive what you've been praying for, you won't just take it, you'll treasure it. You'll handle it with wisdom, honor, and humility, because you understand the cost of a faith that carried it to you. So when you find yourself weary, remember this: even when you can't trace His hand, you can trust His plan. Even when you can't see His movement, you can rest in His presence. God has not forgotten you. The silence is not rejection, it's incubation. Your destiny is incubating under divine heat. And when the time is right, it will emerge in full strength, bursting through every barrier that once held it back. Lift your eyes beyond what you can see. Look through the lens of faith. The story is not over. The chapter of fulfillment is being written even now. What you are waiting for is not lost. It is in progress. God is crafting every detail with precision. And when it arrives, it will not just meet your expectations, it will exceed them. Because God never gives you what you imagine. He gives you what your spirit was born to receive. Keep believing, keep waiting, keep trusting. Because the God who planted the vision in your heart will also bring it to pass. His timing is perfect, His plan is flawless, and His promise is sure. He is not just working on what you asked for, He is working on what you are waiting for, shaping it into something beyond your comprehension. And when that day comes, you will not only thank Him for the answer, you will thank Him for the wait. So now, as you stand in the middle of your waiting season, lift your eyes to the heavens and remember, nothing in your life is stagnant when God is involved. Every moment of waiting is divine motion in disguise. What feels delayed is actually being delivered through a higher process that your human eyes cannot yet comprehend. The silence is not punishment, it is protection. The pause is not neglect, it is perfection in progress. God is not slow. He is strategic. He is weaving threads of destiny so intricately that when it all comes together, you will be in awe of how every tear, every disappointment, and every delay was essential to the masterpiece He was creating. Do not grow weary. This season is not your end. It is your preparation for the unfolding of something magnificent. The waiting has been your classroom, the stillness your teacher, the silence your purification. When the appointed time arrives, you will not simply receive the blessing, you will become the blessing. You will embody strength, endurance, and divine confidence. You will carry the fragrance of someone who has been refined by waiting and touched by divine wisdom. There will come a day when you will look back and say, if I had not waited, I would have never become who I am now. You will see that the delay was the doorway, the stillness was the strategy, and the waiting was the womb where miracles were formed. What you thought was God's absence was actually His greatest work. Because God does not rush creation, He perfects it. So hold your peace, breathe in faith, rest in patience, for even now, in this very moment, while you are waiting, God is working. He is arranging people, opening unseen pathways and preparing blessings beyond what your imagination can contain. And when it comes, and it will come suddenly, beautifully, powerfully, and perfectly. You will understand that every moment of silence was sacred, every second of delay divine. Therefore, wait with faith, not fear. Wait with confidence, not complaint. Wait knowing that the same God who planted the promise is faithful to fulfill it. Your waiting is not empty, it is alive with a purpose. Your faith is not forgotten, it is being recorded in the realm of eternity. And soon, when the time is right, What you prayed for, cried for, and believed for will stand before you as proof that God was working all along on what you were waiting for. There are moments in life when it feels like everything you have given has disappeared into the wind. You've sown kindness and received betrayal. You've worked hard, but the reward never came. You've prayed, fasted, believed, and still it seems like the heavens were silent. But listen to me, God was never blind to your tears. God was never deaf to your prayers. God was never absent from your struggle. Every sacrifice you made in faith, every injustice you endured in silence, every season you walked through when you had nothing but trust in your heart, it was not forgotten. God is about to pay you back with interest. You may think you've lost years. You may believe the opportunities are gone, but what you see as loss, God sees as preparation. What you call delay, God calls divine timing. God never forgets the one who remains faithful in the dark. And when God begins to move, He doesn't restore you to where you were, He multiplies. He adds interest to your pain. He turns your endurance into elevation. He takes what the world thought was destroyed and resurrects it stronger than before. When God repays, He does not pay equally. He pays abundantly. There's a spiritual law in the unseen world. Nothing you do for God ever dies. Every act of faith, every prayer whispered when your heart was breaking, every night you went to bed crying but refused to give up, they are all stored in the account of heaven. And now, God is about to settle that account. The time of divine repayment has come. God is saying, I have seen what was taken from you, and I will return it pressed down, shaken together, and running over. What you sowed in tears, you are about to reap in joy. Not just the joy, but overflowing joy with the divine interest. You must understand that when you lose something in life, God does not measure repayment by human standards. If people took advantage of you, if you were rejected, if you were betrayed, don't focus on the people. Don't chase what left. Don't mourn what was taken. Because God does not settle accounts through people. God Himself becomes your source. When He says He will pay you back, He means He will compensate you in ways no man could ever do. He will open doors no one can shut. He will place favor on your name that no opposition can remove. He will command the blessings to locate you because your account in heaven is due for divine release. There were seasons when you gave when it hurt to give. You believed when it was hard to believe. You held on when everything in you wanted to let go. And now God is saying, the interest on your faith has matured. What looked like delay was God's way of adding interest to your reward. Every year you thought you were forgotten. Every time you felt unseen, that was the interest period. God was calculating the multiplication. Now, suddenly, in a moment you cannot predict, He will release it all at once. You will look back and understand why the wait was so long. Because God wasn't preparing the blessing, He was preparing you to receive it. There are people who will see you rise and wonder how you got there. They will think it happened overnight. But you will know this is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is a divine payback. God has been watching, measuring, calculating every disappointment, every closed door, every false accusation, every delay. It was all added to your spiritual balance. And now the account of your endurance is full. God is about to release His payment with interest so overwhelming that you will not even remember the pain of the past. When God repays, He does not simply give back what you lost. He gives back multiplied peace for your pain, multiplied strength for your struggle, multiplied joy for your sorrow. What was meant to break you becomes the reason you rise. God's repayment doesn't come through material gain alone. It comes through restoration of your dignity, your confidence, your purpose. He renews your name, your reputation, your soul. He gives you back what money cannot buy: peace of mind, divine favor, and unstoppable grace. There was a time in your life when you cried in private and no one saw, but God saw. And now He's about to make you smile in public and everyone will see. The very places where you were humiliated will become the places of your elevation. The same people who mocked you will witness your rise. The same environment that drained you will be the ground where you flourish. God is about to display His justice by rewarding you openly for what you endured silently. You didn't curse. You didn't retaliate. You didn't quit. You kept walking with the faith, and for that, God is about to pay you back with the interest that only heaven could calculate. Some of you are looking at your life and thinking, too much time has passed. I'm too old. I missed my chance. But do you not know that God restores time? When He repays, He gives you not just what you lost, but what you could have gained in the time you waited. God can restore 20 years in one moment. He can multiply what you receive so that the years of pain disappear in the flood of blessings. He can accelerate your destiny so fast that those who left you behind will not be able to keep up. The time you thought was wasted was not wasted. It was investment time. God was adding interest to your future. You may not see it now, But every time you chose forgiveness instead of revenge, every time you showed love instead of bitterness, every time you gave, even when you had little, you deposited faith in the spiritual bank of God. And that account never fails. God is the most faithful accountant. He does not forget one act of obedience. He does not ignore one sacrifice. He does not overlook one moment of patience. When the time is right, He releases it all with interest that will shock even you. You will look around and wonder, how did this happen so suddenly? But it will not be sudden to God. It will be the exact time He appointed. Many times God allows people to walk away from your life because He's preparing your repayment. He removes those who cannot handle your reward. He closes doors that cannot contain your destiny. You cry when things leave, but if you saw what He was bringing, you would rejoice. You're not being punished, you're being positioned. You're not being forgotten, you're being prepared for divine compensation. God cannot multiply what you are still clinging to. When you release what hurt you, God releases what will heal you. And when that release comes, it will come with interest. The pain you've been through was not wasted. It became the seed for your next season. God saw how you kept your heart pure when it could have turned bitter. He saw how you continued to give even when you lacked. He saw how you continued to serve when you were tired. And now He says, enough. The time has come. What you planted in faith, you will harvest in abundance. What was lost will be found not as it was, but better, greater, stronger. You will stand and testify that God did not just repay, He overpaid. Think about this. When you deposit the money in a bank, you expect interest. You don't doubt it. You know it will grow. The same is true for faith. Every prayer, every act of obedience, every tear, they are divine deposits. And the longer they stay unseen, the more they grow. The greater the silence, the greater the interest. That's why God often seems slow. He's not slow. He's multiplying the interest. He's making sure that when the blessing arrives, it is more than what you asked for. You thought you were forgotten, but you were being invested in. There is no debt that God leaves unpaid. Every injustice will be answered. Every wound will be healed. Every loss will be replaced with a double gain. The hands that hurt you will not have the final word. God will. The situation that crushed you will not define you. God will. When God pays back, He doesn't ask permission. He doesn't seek approval. He simply declares, it's time. And when He moves, no force can stop it. The same power that raised the morning sun will raise your destiny from the ashes. The same voice that created the universe will speak restoration into your life. What once was broken will shine again, and it will shine brighter because of what it went through. So do not be discouraged when it seems like your life has been unfair. Unfair seasons are the soil of divine interest. God allows pain not to punish, but to promote. He allows delays not to deny, but to multiply. Every injustice becomes a reason for Him to bless you more. Every tear becomes a seed for joy. Every failure becomes a foundation for future success. The longer the struggle, the higher the interest. That's why you can't compare your timeline with others. You're not on their schedule. Your return is bigger. Your reward is heavier. Your destiny is divine. God is about to release what was stored up for years, and when it comes, it will come suddenly. You won't need to chase it. You won't need to beg for it. God will command the blessings to locate you. Opportunities will come to you. People will favor you without explanation. Resources will appear without effort. That is the nature of divine interest. It's supernatural. It doesn't make sense to the natural mind. You will say, I didn't even ask for this. And God will say, this is interest. You will realize that everything you lost was a setup for everything you were meant to gain. What was withheld from you was never meant to break you. It was meant to increase the value of your testimony. Some of you will experience restoration so fast that it will confuse those who counted you out. They will look and say, how did you recover? And your answer will be, God paid me back. You will find yourself in places you never imagined. The job that rejected you will be replaced by a better one. The relationship that broke you will be replaced by peace beyond understanding. The door that closed will be replaced by a gate that never shuts. Because when God repays, He does not just return what was lost. He upgrades it. The new season will make the old pain meaningless. You may feel tired right now, as if your faith is barely holding, but hold on a little longer. You are closer to your divine payback than you realize. God's timing is never random. The moment you feel like giving up is often the moment before release. The pressure you feel is the sign of a breakthrough. The opposition you face is proof that your blessing is near. God is about to turn your endurance into evidence. You will not only be restored, you will become a testimony of how God rewards those who trust Him even when they cannot trace Him. There are angels right now arranging divine appointments, unseen opportunities, and supernatural shifts on your behalf. You may not see them, but they are working. You may not hear anything, but heaven is busy. The silence of God is not the absence of God, it's the preparation of repayment. The account is ready, the interest is added, and when God releases it, no one will stop it. What's about to come will be so great that you will forget the pain of the process. You will say, it was worth it. Every tear was worth it. Every lonely night was worth it. Every delay was divine. And remember, when God blesses you, it is not just for you. It's for those who doubted, those who gave up, those who lost hope. Your restoration will remind others that God never forgets His faithful ones. Your overflow will feed the hungry. Your success will inspire the weary. Your peace will comfort the broken. You are the evidence that God's repayment system never fails. You are the proof that what is lost in faith is never lost forever. There is a reason. God tells you to wait. Waiting is not punishment. It is preparation for multiplied blessings. When you are waiting, you are not standing still. You are being refined, strengthened, matured, and made ready to handle what is coming. If God gave you everything you asked for when you first asked, you would not be ready to hold it. God delays not because He is slow, but because He is thorough. He builds your capacity so that when the blessing comes, you do not break under its weight. The delay is the interest period of your destiny. It is when your future value increases. When the heavens seem silent, that is when God is increasing your return. He is preparing a reward not just to match your patience, but to multiply it beyond your imagination. God has a way of balancing every equation of your life. What looked like loss is about to turn into your greatest gain. When others walked away from you, when opportunities closed, when your heart broke into 1,000 pieces, it was not the end. it was the recalibration. God was setting you up for something greater. When you lose what you thought you could not live without, that is when God proves He is your true source. You cannot be paid back by God and still depend on man. That is why He removes the crutches before He releases the compensation. He wants you to know, without any doubt, that your payback came from His hand alone. The same God who allowed the loss will be the one to orchestrate the overflow. You see, God does not just restore what was stolen. He teaches you through it. The lessons you gained in your dark seasons are the treasures of your soul. The pain made you wiser. The rejection made you stronger. The disappointment purified your faith. You didn't just survive. You evolved. And now God can trust you with what others lost because of their pride. That is divine repayment. It's not only about receiving, it's about becoming. You are not the same person who went through the fire. You are purified, focused, unshakable. The more you suffered in silence, the more God molded you in secret. Now He will reveal you in light, and no one will understand the weight of your journey. They will see the crown, but never comprehend the cross you carried to get there. When God begins to pay you back, it will not come through one stream. It will come from every direction: favor from unexpected people, open doors from closed places, healing in areas you forgot were broken, peace where there used to be anxiety. God's payback is multi-dimensional. You may be asking for one thing, but God will restore 10. You may expect a single opportunity, but God will overflow your life with many. When He rewards, He does not give in small portions. He releases abundance. You waited long because your blessing is large. You endured deeply because your reward is heavy. You held on tightly because your miracle requires strong hands. God was building your strength to handle your success. Sometimes God allows you to be stripped down to nothing because He wants to rebuild you with eternal foundations. When everything familiar is gone, when people leave, when finances dry up, when hope feels faint, that is when you encounter the God who provides from invisible realms. You thought you lost everything, but you were actually being freed. Freed from dependence on people, freed from false expectations, freed from attachments that could not carry your destiny. When God pays back, He does not restore the old structure. He builds a new one. He creates fresh beginnings, unshakable blessings, and the peace that cannot be stolen. Do not be surprised if your next season looks nothing like your past. God does not repeat. He renews. What's ahead will not be a copy of what was. It will be greater, purer, more aligned with your purpose. When divine interest is released, you walk into opportunities that were never part of your plan. You receive blessings that have no logical explanation. People will ask, how did this happen? And all you will be able to say is, God remembered me. That is the moment when time bends, when the years that seemed wasted suddenly bear fruit. The barren fields begin to bloom. The broken roads become highways of favor, and the waiting becomes worth every second. You must believe that God has been watching your every effort. Nothing escapes His eyes. The silent sacrifices, the unseen prayers, the good you did that no one acknowledged, that God recorded all of it. The universe itself aligns when it is time for divine repayment. What belongs to you will find you. What is yours cannot stay hidden forever. You may have been forgotten by people, but you were engraved on the heart of God. When He remembers, He does not send the partial blessings. He sends the full inheritance. The same world that ignored you will witness your restoration. Be careful not to grow bitter during the wait. Bitterness blocks blessings. Anger delays acceleration. The longer you remain angry about what happened, the longer you postpone your repayment. Forgive quickly. Let go of the past so that your hands are free to receive the future. Do not chase revenge. Let God balance the scales. He is a just God. He sees everything you endured, and He will repay in a way that humbles your enemies without you lifting a finger. When you stay quiet, God fights loudly. When you surrender, God acts swiftly. Your silence will speak louder than your defense, because God's justice will make the truth shine like the morning sun. You are not forgotten. You are being calculated for reward. You are not delayed. You are being positioned for overflow. You are not losing. You are being refined for expansion. The things that left to your life were never meant to stay. The people who turned their backs were never your source. The doors that closed were never your destiny. God shut them because He saw what you couldn't see. He saw the interest building, the greater plan unfolding. When your eyes are fixed on Him, nothing that leaves can stop what is coming. There will come a moment when you wake up and realize that everything suddenly shifted. The heaviness will lift, the confusion will clear, the opportunities will flow. It won't make sense, but it will make peace. You'll know deep within your soul that God has turned your story around. The same tears that fell in pain will fall in gratitude. The same heart that once broke will overflow with peace. This is not fantasy, it's divine reality. God's repayment is not just external. It transforms your entire atmosphere. You will walk into rooms and feel the favor following you. You will speak and your words will carry power because your struggle refined your authority. God's payback is not just about blessing, it's about purpose. He restores so you can inspire others. He blesses so you can bless others. You become a vessel of proof that faith is never wasted. When people see you rise, they will believe in His timing. When they see your peace, they will understand His process. Your life becomes a testimony that patience in God is not in vain. Every delay has purpose. Every tear has meaning. Every loss carries hidden compensation. What was painful yesterday will become power tomorrow. You are entering a season where what you prayed for will chase you. You will not have to strive. The blessings will arrive at your doorstep. You will not have to beg. The opportunities will seek your name. You will not have to explain. Your results will speak for you. That is how God works when He repays with interest. The overflow will silence every critic, heal every wound, and restore every broken part of your soul. You will know that you never wasted your faith. The same hands that carried your pain will now carry your promise. God is not limited by time, resources, or logic. What you think is impossible, He can make inevitable. When God decides to bless you, no delay, no betrayal, no circumstance can stop it. He does not need to consult anyone about your future. When He says now, everything changes. The waiting years collapse into moments of glory. The pain is swallowed by the power of His goodness. The interest on your suffering becomes the currency of your restoration. You are about to receive what you could never have earned on your own. This is why you must not despise your process. The very situations that broke you were building your blessing. Every storm was watering your seed. Every delay was storing your reward. The longer the night, the brighter the dawn. The deeper the pain, the greater the payback. And when it comes, it will not be subtle, it will be undeniable. People will look at your life and see that only God could have done it. When God begins to move in your life, He does not announce it with noise. He begins in silence, shifting the unseen, rearranging situations, and preparing hearts before the manifestation appears. While you think nothing is happening, God is working behind the curtains of the visible world. He is speaking into the invisible, commanding things to align in your favor. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment you have faced was part of His calculation for a greater repayment. You are not walking through randomness, you are walking through refinement. The hand of God has been upon you, even in the seasons that seemed void of His presence. The repayment God is preparing for you is not just the restoration of what you lost. It is an upgrade of who you are. God never returns something the same way it left your life. When He restores, He renews. When He repays, He perfects. The value of what comes back into your life will surpass what was taken. That's why you must stop looking backward, longing for what was. The past cannot contain the new measure of blessing God is about to pour into your life. The doors that once closed cannot handle the glory that now follows you. You are being elevated beyond your former season. Many of you have felt that life has treated you unfairly. You have given your all, yet you were betrayed. You were loyal, yet you were overlooked. You were kind, yet you were used. But remember, God measures differently than people. What they call loss, He calls investment. What they call rejection, He calls direction. Those who mistreated you unknowingly became instruments of your transformation. They pushed you into prayer. They drove you closer to God. They stripped you of dependency on people so that you could learn dependency on the divine. Now, the same pain that wounded you will become the platform that reveals your purpose. God is about to turn the very things that were meant to destroy you into the foundation of your destiny. Sometimes God allows injustice to train your heart for justice. He lets you taste the lack so that when abundance comes, you know how to handle it with humility. He lets you experience betrayal so that you can discern the value of a truth. He allows you to face rejection so that when acceptance comes, you do not make an idol out of a people's approval. The pain of your past was the tuition for your wisdom. God used it to teach you lessons that comfort cannot teach. And now that you have graduated from that season, He will honor your endurance with the divine promotion. The interest on your tears has matured, and the payout is near. Understand this. God never forgets a heart that stayed faithful when faith made no sense. He never forgets those who continued to give when they had nothing left. He never forgets the ones who kept serving quietly when no one saw their effort. Every unseen act of goodness, every silent sacrifice, every hidden prayer has been collected by the hand of God. He is the master of timing and the keeper of accounts. When He pays back, it is always at the perfect moment, not too early, not too late, but right when it magnifies His glory through your life. Do not envy those who seem to be ahead of you. Do not compare your journey to theirs. Some people receive early blessings because their assignment is small. But those who are chosen for greater things often walk through longer seasons of testing. The deeper the foundation, the higher the building. The longer the preparation, the greater the manifestation. While others celebrated their small harvests, God was adding compound interest to your faith. When He releases it, the overflow will cover the years of silence, the moments of struggle, and the nights of tears. You are not just going to recover, you are going to rule. You are not just going to survive, you are going to soar. You are not just going to get back what you lost, you will become a walking example of divine restoration. The people who once pitied you will be amazed at your transformation. They will see the peace in your eyes, the favor in your path, and the power in your presence. And they will know only God could have done this. You will not need to explain anything because your life itself will be the testimony. There is a sacred reason why God allowed the wilderness. He needed to separate you from noise so that you could hear His whisper. In the quiet, He was shaping your inner strength. In the isolation, He was refining your identity. You thought you were forgotten, but you were being formed. You thought you were abandoned, but you were being anchored. The loneliness was not punishment, it was preparation for leadership. God hides His chosen ones before He reveals them, because exposure without maturity destroys destiny. But now your time of hiding is coming to an end. The same God who kept you in the shadows is now calling you into the light. And when the light comes, it will not be dim. God does not restore halfway. His blessings come in completeness. He will not repay you only for the years you cried. He will reward you for how you handled the crying. You didn't curse Him when things fell apart. You didn't give up when it seemed hopeless. You didn't stop believing when everything went silent. You may have doubted, but you didn't quit. That perseverance is now the reason heaven's door is opening. The scale is tipping in your favor. The divine ledger is being balanced. You must prepare your spirit for overflow. When God decides to repay, blessings come fast. They come suddenly. They come from places you never looked. What was denied for years will appear in days. You will not need to chase opportunities. Opportunities will chase you. You will not need to strive for recognition. Favor will announce your name in rooms you've never entered. The favor of God cannot be blocked by human opinion. It transcends systems, breaks protocols, and bypasses human logic. When God releases interest, it multiplies beyond the natural. But remember this, divine payback is not only material, it's emotional, mental, and spiritual. God will give you back your peace. He will give you back your confidence. He will give you back your sleep at night. He will give you back your strength to dream again. You will wake up feeling light because the heaviness that once followed you will be gone. You will walk into situations that used to intimidate you, and instead of fear, you'll feel power. That's what happens when God restores. He renews you from within. You will not just look different, you will feel different. The truth is, your struggle was never about loss, it was about inheritance. God was training you to handle what others could not. That's why He allowed certain battles that seemed unnecessary. They were building your endurance. They were cultivating your wisdom. They were teaching you to discern between temporary blessings and eternal rewards. You see, some people receive small victories because that's all they can carry. But you, God, has trusted you with something much larger. That's why the road was rougher. That's why the wait was longer. That's why the pain was deeper. But now the wait is over. There will be a divine acceleration in your life. What took others 10 years to achieve, you will achieve in 1. What seemed impossible will become effortless. What you once struggled for will come naturally. That is how God compensates His faithful ones. He redeems time. He compresses what was lost into a moment of glory. The blessings that should have come gradually will pour in all at once. You will not be able to count them. You will simply stand in awe of God's mercy. But let me remind you, when the blessings come, remain humble. Do not forget the silence that shaped you, the night that taught you how to pray, the tears that softened your heart. God blesses those who stay grounded in gratitude. Your reward will be sustained only by humility. The same God who gave can take away if the gift replaces the giver. So, when you rise, remember who lifted you. When you prosper, remember who provided. When you shine, remember who shaped your light. The purpose of your reward is to glorify the one who gave it. Do not fear what lies ahead. You are entering a divine shift. Everything around you will begin to align resources, people, timing, and opportunities. What you once had to chase will now flow to you effortlessly. You will sense divine order replacing chaos. The confusion will clear. The burdens will lift. The way forward will open. And you will know deep in your soul that God's repayment has begun. The same voice that carried you through storms will now command blessings to locate you. The season of struggle has fulfilled its purpose. The season of overflow has arrived. Your story is about to change its tone. You will move from how long to it is done, from why me, to thank you God, from I don't see a way, to the way has been made. You will look back and realize that the pain was part of the preparation, that the waiting was part of the reward. You will understand that God was not withholding, He was multiplying. He was adding divine interest to every second of endurance. And now the time of divine release has come. God is not only paying you back, He's paying you back with the interest so great that generations after you will benefit from it.